Hi, I'm Tonya Caruso. Welcome to Comcast Newsmakers. Should voters be required to show identification at the polls? Well, joining us in our studios this half hour, State Representative Daryl Metcalfe. Thank you so much for coming in and talking with us today.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about such an important issue.
So we're not just talking about identification, we are talking about photo identification, correct?
That's correct. We have legislation that we've introduced and passed successfully earlier this year through the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. It's now in the Senate to require that when a voter votes that they show photo ID prior to being able to cast a vote.
Now, why is this something that you think is necessary?
Just a common sense application of policy and a common sense requirement to require that somebody actually prove they are who they claim to be when they cast that very important vote to choose who is going to be in their government. We, the people that make up the government, really should expect that our government put safeguards in place to protect from fraud occurring at the elections.
Safeguards, some might say, others might say another roadblock to taking away someone's right.
There's been several academic studies that have been done since this has been put in place in other states that have proven that this doesn't disenfranchise any voter, regardless of age or ethnic background or where you live. It's just a common sense practice when you go to fly on a plane or when you cash a check. Even when I went to get my new eyeglasses recently to see the eye doctor, before they would process my appointment, I had to show photo ID. So it's even to get a library card, you need photo ID. I think many people believe it's a common sense measure that is long overdue, that we would require that somebody actually prove they are who they claim to be to prevent fraud that's occurred in our election process. We've had, as recently as 2009, we had several, I think it was actually about 7 Acorn employees prosecuted and charged through an FBI investigation into election fraud here in Pittsburgh. Thousands of fraudulent registrations were filed in Philadelphia in 2008, with about 1,500 being turned over to the DA in Philadelphia for investigation. So fraud is a very real problem in the election process, and we need to put forth a common sense safeguard to ensure integrity in the election process.
When you talk about other states, how many other states do have this in place, and how has it been working in those areas?
The most important state that we've looked at is Indiana, and that's because we modeled our law after the Indiana law that was put forward. Indiana has probably one of the strongest laws in the country requiring photo ID, and they have tested that law right up through the U.S. Supreme Court. So the U.S. Supreme Court has found that this is constitutional to require this photo ID at the polls. And Indiana, it's been actually working very well. Other states that have been using it also, and that's where some of the academic studies have been done in the states that have required it, have proven that not only does it not disenfranchise voters, but it actually appears that voters are coming out in better numbers. And I think it really points to voters having the actual confidence in the election process, that when we take our time out of our day to go cast our vote, we can be sure that there won't be a fraudulently cast vote to cancel out what we've taken time to actually participate in our government in doing.
So what specifically does this bill call for? You have to show up, you have to have a driver's license. If you don't drive, what sort of identification is acceptable? And,
right.
And are you worried at all some people might get to the polls and, well, maybe this photo ID works, maybe it doesn't. How do you make sure that this is standardized across the board?
Well, the new law would require that you show either a federally issued or state issued photo ID, such as a driver's license, a passport. There are the non-driver photo IDs that are issued by PennDOT, and the legislation would provide that for anybody that doesn't already have a photo ID, that we would provide free of charge a photo ID through the PennDOT offices in the form of a non-driver photo ID, so that they would have the proper ID. And when our statistics show that the majority of people of voting age do already have a photo ID, and for those that don't, there would be ample time ahead of time and an educational process to alert folks that, hey, when you go to vote next time, you're going to need this photo ID. And there is a process in place in the legislation so that somebody's vote won't be disenfranchised, that they could cast a provisional ballot and then show photo ID later on within the following week.
Well, so much more to talk about. We thank you so much for coming in and talking with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this issue.
You're welcome. I'm Tonya Caruso. Thanks for watching Comcast Newsmakers. We'll send you back now to HLN.